Hello and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel, the Human Performance Project. ABC, HPP, let me break that down for you just in case. Adam Benjamin Coleman, the Human Performance Project. Hi, how you doing? Happy Sunday. So, I know normally we talk about, guns and stuff on this channel, but today actually is going to be the first time that I do a little bit about something else that has been a big influence in my life. I think that some of you guys that have known me, some of you who only know me through this channel, but definitely know me in real life, have seen that I've experienced a change in my life, I guess you would say, as far as how I handle things and how I try to approach things and just the way I view the world in general. I hope you've noticed anyways, because there's been one, all right? And a part of that for me has been getting a personal relationship with a higher power that I choose to call God. I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't really care if I do. I believe in God. That's who I believe is my creator, and that's what I'm going to say if anyone asks. I'm not going to tell you if you don't ask, but just so we're clear, that's kind of what we're talking about today. My motivation, one of them being a contact with God of my understanding. And that took me a while to find, and I was raised a Catholic kid. I did the confirmation and the first communion and all that stuff. And I thought that I knew pretty well about God, but I didn't have a single clue what God was to me, or what I thought he looked like, or what I thought he would be like if I met him, and I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know how to just take what was deep inside me, eating me up, and just let it go. I still don't sometimes, but it's a work in progress. But that being able to do that and find that for myself is the first time that I've ever felt anything close to peace in my life. And I've talked to people who have had similar experiences, and you're welcome to comment or share if you've had one or a different experience. By the way, disclaimer, this is not like a promotion for any religious purpose. I'm not trying to sway anyone. This is all based on my personal experience and opinion. I'm not, evangelizing or doing anything of that nature. So let me just get that out of the way. Back to where I was, squirrel. God of my understanding. So, if that offends anyone, I would encourage you to figure out why, because my beliefs shouldn't offend you, and you don't have to watch this. So if you don't like it, hit the off switch. If you do like it, or even are tolerating it, hit the subscribe button, please, and maybe the like too. Yay. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about temptation in society, and tie in a little bit with God and the Bible, and how I think they correlate, and how they're correlating for me anyways. So again, personal experience. But there's a lot of different temptations in this world that we face, and we don't even call them all temptations. A lot of them we just take at face value as norms, or standards. And it's kind of scary, because we don't really scrutinize very heavily a lot of the stuff that is put in our faces, or our children's faces, or the faces of our loved ones, and what we're being inundated with all the time, whether we want to be or not, especially with the advent of cell phones. I mean, my God, I'm old enough where I fart dust, and I saw the first cell phones, and they doubled as VCRs. They were huge, but they weren't like they are now, just like a fixture in people's hands, and people still looked up while they were walking. You don't see there wasn't a goddamn postural problem related to the societal advent of them, for Christ's sake. I'm talking about the Hunchback of Notre Dame syndrome that everyone seems to be getting. Anyway, I digress. Stand up straight. Temptation has a lot of different faces, and that appeals to us because we're in a society that says we should wear a lot of faces. We should be this, we should be that, we should do this, we should do that, we should get this, we should get that. Pull the strings, puppet master. What should I do now? That's really what it is if you break it down at the end of the day. Like, how many of us are really thinking and acting for ourselves? Or are you servicing a debt that you're in, or, you know, a bind that you're in because of a promise you made to somebody, or whatever, dude? Like, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you're not doing anything for yourself, and you're miserable, and you wonder why. So hit the brakes. Hit the brakes, because there is a solution. We'll get there in a minute. But that's temptation creeping in. That, like, manic, just hurry, conquer and conquest and keep up mode that I described, that you see a lot of people live in, that's not normal. Like, that's acquired. That's not a standard. That's not, like, for you younger people, like, that's not how shit always was or has been, you know? Like, people don't always look like they have a stick up their ass and like they're trying to win a walkathon. Like, it's just, it's not, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, nothing is that big of a deal. If you were gonna die tomorrow, would it really fucking matter? Oh yeah, I cuss on this channel too, so my apologies. I try to keep it down because I think it sounds trashy, but at the same time, I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't make me feel like a bad person, so my God cusses. I don't know. He doesn't get mad at me for it. Anyway, like I said, I will try to keep it down. But temptation, because we follow all these different roles and play all these different personalities, like, yeah, I feel like it's easy for us to get distracted. Like, it's easy for there to be a chink in the armor where sin or the enemy, whatever you want to call it, can just be like swoops and just kind of creep in and find a way to get you while you're down and you're not really paying attention in some area, you know. And before you know it, like, it's a pig with lipstick on. Like, you don't really, well, that's a bad example. You don't really see it as sin because it's something that's disguised very well. You know, it doesn't look abnormal. It doesn't really stand out, you know. I was going to try to compare it to like a TV show, and then I was like, you'll sound like a fucking dork and no one's going to know what you're talking about. So I'm gonna miss that. But anyway, yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes, like, is it real or is it not? Because sometimes it can, you know, look like a duck, but the quack's a little off, or it quacks like a duck, but something else is a little off, you know. And it just, you don't always see that at first. And sometimes it's with people that we're told by someone that we trust that they should be important or trustworthy, and so we just kind of let it ride, and then something bad happens, and it just, you know, like, the devil and God were not that far removed from one another at some point, you know. Like, Satan was cast out of heaven. They've met. So to think that they don't both hold some of the same abilities as far as, like, the power to not necessarily control us, but damn sure know which way our human will is going to run things, you know, like what's going to happen next. They're in the long game for sure. We're playing checkers and they're playing chess, but, like, none of us are immune to sin and temptation. None of us, you know, not the Pope, not a preacher, not the poorest kid on the planet in the gutter somewhere. Like, none of us, on some level, we are all the same, all of us. And we need to start looking at that as truth and quit looking for differences. Start looking at the ways you're similar to people and stop looking at the damn differences, man. We go through the same struggles. We fight through the same stuff. We die the same death. We are born in the same way. You know, like, we should probably try to do this thing together a little bit better than we are right now. Just saying. I talk a lot. So hopefully this temptation being well disguised or being disguised as something that you pay attention to in society but can be infiltrated, you know, whether that be something in the media through TV or video games or the internet, whether it's through friends, someone that you trust that gets a hold of some information or an idea that's really not good, but because you look up to them, you just kind of go with it, even though in your gut you're like, I don't know, I don't really feel good about this. My dad told me a long time ago, and I wish I listened, like, if your mom was standing next to you, would you do it? And that'll ruin a lot of shit in your life, but it'll also keep you from making some really bad decisions. Real talk. So, you know, do the right thing even when no one's looking. Like, you want to be special, You want to do something that not everyone does and be original? Live your life with integrity. That means tell the truth. Be an example. Be an example worth following. Like, that is what the world needs. We don't need another influencer. We don't need another one-hit wonder rapper or pro athlete or any kind of human icon. We need people to do good just for the sake of doing good, because our service is not to one another. Our service is to our Creator. Like, we're working for the wrong employer. We're putting our energy into the wrong stuff, and we're making it really freaking easy for temptation, for sin, for any evil in the planet, because that comes in all forms too, people. You know, I mean, if you watch the news, you know, like, you've seen evil in the form of like some little single mom that is all of 95 pounds and looks like she would never hurt a fly, but she drove her 2 kids into the lake. There's people that do, you know, atrocious things under the influence of higher powers. There's a lot of ugliness in the world, and there has to be, because there's a lot of beauty in the world, and one can't exist without the other. I don't know much, but I do know that this world is balanced by opposites. Like, hate can't exist without love. Good can't exist without bad. Sunshine can't exist without rain. It's just, it's not that simple, but it is that simple. Like, there's a bit of bad in the best of us, and there's a bit of good in the worst of us. The person that you know that is the nicest, most jovial, most outgoing, bubbly person, if you push them to a point, they will become scarily fucking angry. I guarantee you, it happens. We're built that way so we can survive. Okay, the guy that walks around chronically pissed off and looks like one of those stress dolls that you squeeze when his head's bulging out and shit, that guy, like, probably has kittens that he bottle feeds, and you just don't know about it. You know? Like, that's seriously how the world works. It is, I say that because I've been around, you know? Like, I'm a high mileage model, even though I'm not yet 40, making this on the eve of my 39th birthday, actually. So that means May 7th, if you're not really paying attention. And tomorrow I'll be 39. Hooray. Not a big deal, just another day in paradise, but I am grateful to be alive, because things have been a lot worse. So I'm not being a curmudgeon. I'm just not trying to be all special and take like a week for my birthday, because there's like, I don't know, 10 billion people on this planet. So yeah, I'm the most humble person out there. Yeah. So anyway, back to temptation. So what? There's temptation, big deal. We all know that. How far do you let it go? What does it do? How does it change you? If you look at, again, I'm going to use pop culture here, like movies like The Butterfly Effect, where some really small, seemingly insignificant happening at one point in the world causes a much, much bigger and more catastrophic and effective, or tragic even, event on the opposite side of the world, right? That is kind of the same with sin, with evil, with temptation. It depends on what it infiltrates. It depends on how far you let it go. Is it just a thought? Is it an action? Does it action become a habit? Does that habit become a lifestyle? Does that lifestyle affect other people? Okay, do those other people affect other people? Like, do you see how far this can go? Like, your actions affect the world, dog. Good or bad, your choice. But if you participate in life, you have the ability to put your influence into the world. I'm not gonna say change the world, because that sounds like Michael Jackson and like, change the, no. But seriously, like, you have the ability to decide every day what kind of a person you're gonna be, like what kind of a footprint you're gonna leave on that day, you know? Like, are you gonna kick that day's ass, or is that day gonna walk all over you? And is it gonna be positive, or are you gonna be a grimy little son of a bitch that no one can trust or say anything good about when they're around, or when they're not? Your choice, you know? The world has both, like we talked about, opposites, right? And temptation will play a part in all of that. You know, different temptations will affect those two individuals, the grimy little punk and the dork. And there's a point in your life, I'm sure, where you can look and see where things could have gone different or did go different for you. I know I can. I know that I can look back and see now that decisions that I made, people that I chose to be around, situations I chose to put myself in, were conducive to chaos, carnage, and confusion. They were not conducive to, cultivating better social habits and more knowledge and, betterment of society. They just weren't. They weren't. Sometimes they were. Sometimes they were. In my heart, I wanted them to be. But in real life, I wasn't doing none of that shit for a long time. Still not sometimes, but just keeping it real. At the end of the day, if you really ask yourself, like, is this world a better place with me in it today? Like, that will bring home real quick what kind of effort you're putting into your days on earth. Like, are you going out of your way to try to do anything other than just usurp whatever you can from everything and everyone you can? Or are you trying to make sure that someone who is not having an easy a time as you are is okay? Are you trying to make sure that someone else who has a lot going on right now in their story or walk of life is probably not like sitting around with spare time wondering what to do next? They know what they're doing. They're trying to survive, Maybe you should go check on them, see if they need help. Like, there's all kinds of ways to be useful. You don't have to sit there and, I don't have anything to give. I can't do anything to help anyone. Sometimes your presence will help someone. A single word said at the right time can save someone. It is truly up to us how much of an influence and what kind of an influence, sorry baby, you got something stuck on your ear, what kind of an influence we leave on this world. And I don't know what kind of influence or what kind of stamp you want to leave, but mine has definitely, I guess, changed a little bit from what it was. So this temptation thing is something that I talk about because you can't ever get time back. And if you do make that decision and you follow temptation and your life goes a direction you don't want it to, you can't change that. There's no rewind. There's no do-over. There's no next life. And sometimes that's really, really a shitty thing to know, but it's the truth. So it's important to make the most of it while we have it. And it's important to try to help people avoid some of the same dumb shit that we've all done. There's not a single person that could watch this video that doesn't have a moment in their life that they wish they could do over, that they would have done differently, that they know they should have done differently. And that's okay. It's what makes us who we are. It's good and bad, remember? It's one of the things that I think causes more misery for the human race than almost anything else is that we refuse to own who we really are, and that we do have some pretty shitty, bad, grimy thoughts and parts of us sometimes. And you know what that makes you? Normal, dude. Like, completely normal. And somewhere along the line, we just we let ourselves believe that this picture of this just plastic smiling skeleton walking around on Viagra is what we should be shooting for. And it's just I don't know about you watching this. I'm getting genuinely scared. I do not know or feel like I know a lot of times how to even communicate with people anymore, because if you tell them the truth, they get so damn offended. It's a big deal. If you don't tell them the truth, you're a liar and it's a big deal. Then you need to feel sorry for them because now they're a victim and they need a participation ribbon because they came out of their house today. Like, what the fuck, man? You know, like I don't even know what to talk about anymore. It's not going to piss someone off. You know, like people are hating people for what they're doing, their personal choices, their voting. Like, good God. Like, stop looking for reasons to be fucking pissed, dude. There's plenty already. There's plenty before you. Like, don't be a reason to be pissed, please. If you're gonna walk out of your house and all you're gonna be is an asshole today, turn around and go back inside. Please. I'm not gonna say anything more negative than that, but just don't spread that in the world. There's enough. There really is. And I lived in that place for years. It's not a contagion that you wanna carry and participate in spreading, trust me. Anger, and anger specifically, is the most toxic emotion, and it's really a useless emotion because it's not real. All right, like anger is secondary, first of all, so it's not even anger that you're feeling most of the time, it's fear, and you react in anger. Okay, yeah, that may sound stupid to you. If you said it's stupid, you're doing it right now. Okay, just be honest with yourself. You feel threatened, so you act out. Okay, it's fight or flight. It's a normal human response. It's not an insult, it's an observation. So I forgot where I was even going with that, but anyway, trying to multitask. As you can see, my dog gets frantic if I don't play with her. So, you know, saving time in your life, not making the same mistakes, all that good stuff, and not judging each other for our past. Just I'm not going to tell anyone how to be. I've found for myself, again, looking for similarities, not differences, and not judging people by what I think they might be like based on what they look like or where they're at or what they're doing, has provided me with some very interesting encounters at the very least. You know, like I have a circle of friends that if you were gonna make it in color, there's not enough crayons in the box to finish it, man. You know, like it's just, I've met a lot of different people and a lot of different personalities and from a lot of different places, and it's just crazy how no matter how far away our home base start was apart, we're so similar in so many ways. You know, like once the language barrier is covered, that's it, you know, like nothing else matters. Like just the fact that you're a human being, like even though you have had two totally different lives, there's still similarities there they're deeper than just a favorite color. We'll put it that way, you know, like just our life journey, you know, like the whole thing that we're all doing here. Remember, this temporary life that we only have a certain amount of days in, so we might as well enjoy. It's the same for everyone, but we all try to act like we're so incredibly just alone or unique or special or all the above. And we are those things sometimes, but we're also just drops of water in the bucket. So back to the point before I squirrel out again, like don't let temptation and what it can breed take you to a place of complete ruin. Like that's as succinctly as I can put it. Don't make permanent decisions for temporary feelings and temporary problems, and things that are not gonna, you're not even gonna remember in 6 months. You know, like don't even give it energy. Don't give it yourself. Value yourself, I guess. If you could take something from this today, find a God and value yourself, because He loves you and you should love you. And beyond that, you shouldn't need anything else. And that is gospel right there. That is the truth. If you have those two things, you'll be all right. Self-love and a love for God. So anyway, that is part of the solution. A higher power, we're going to say, for inclusive purposes, which I choose to call God for my personal preference. A good perspective is another thing, because I know everyone knows the angry person, and in their circle of friends or in their life that is just chronically negative or chronically just hard to be around. Like, it takes energy to hang out with them. You know, when you're done, you feel physically tired, even if you were sitting on the couch. Those people are sick. They're sick. You know, instead of avoiding them and talking about them behind their back, like, think about how it would feel to be them, and think about a conversation that you could start that would allow them to open up and talk about why are they that way? What's the problem? Why are things that bad? Tell me a story. You know, I'm a people too. We love to talk about ourselves. Like, ask us personal questions. If we semi-trust you, you know, like, you can get people going about what they like or what they do or what they're going to do or whatever, what their kids do or whatever, something. It shouldn't be that difficult for us to communicate. It really shouldn't, you know? I mean, we've acted like we've just forgotten how. And that's an observation. That's not my personal experience, even though my personal experience is as well. But I just watch people now, and there's just there's very little joy in the human interactions that I see in the world, I guess is the simplest way to put it. Everything is transactional. Everything is a means to an end, or just a simple tick for tack. You know, it's transactional, all of it. You know, there's no feeling or heart or soul or genuine emotion into it whatsoever. And that goes from a money exchange at the cash register to what some people call a romantic relationship. You know, like, it's made specifically out of convenience, you know, and people become disgustingly dependent, chemically used to, addicted to, and it's just easier to stay. Why not? It's crazy, man. That's a different story, different subject matter for a much different time, but it doesn't have to be in a romantic relationship. That can be in an individual relationship where you just get miserable, you get used to being miserable, you think that miserable is the new normal, you don't deserve any better, and so why even try to be different, but you hate yourself for being that way. And round you go, and it only goes down. And if that sounds familiar, there are numbers you can call, there are people you can talk to, and you are not alone. And don't think that if you are feeling not okay, that that's even a problem or unique, because it's okay to feel not okay. Everyone does at some point in time, whether they tell you the truth about it or not. And honestly, you learn more from embracing it and talking about it than you do from pretending it's not there anyways. So even though it's a pain in the ass to have those feelings and emotions, you can take them to a place where they actually will teach you something about yourself eventually. Again, personal experience, had to go through all that. I don't know, shoot. I could never get a proper mental health diagnosis of myself when I was young, because I've been an alcoholic since I was probably 13 years old. And you need to be sober to get, a proper diagnosis. Even though I had pretty much a 100% score on the yes side of, like, the bipolar, checklist. Not really a manic side, but a lot of the mood swings. But that is because of temptation. Like, that is because I was letting a life that I thought I was supposed to live and the values that came with it run me, and my moral compass was not going that way. It was telling me that I needed a basic, God-fearing, simple but productive fucking life with him in the middle of it. And as a result of me not doing that or listening to that, I was miserable for a long, long time. Like, there was just this noise in my head. Like, constantly. I had to have a stimulus. I had to have something to distract me. I had to have a chemical. I had to have anything, just not this, And I just felt like I was going to explode all the time, man. And I would just try to hide it and mask it. And it took me, I wouldn't listen, man. I wouldn't listen to my parents. I wouldn't listen to people who've been there before. Like, I could have saved myself a lot of time, but I had to do it my way, and most people do, especially smart people, which I'm not trying to toot my own horn. Because if you're smart and you're in a recovery program or you have a problem with anything at all, I'm sorry, because you're going to try to outthink it and figure it out yourself, and you won't. It's a spiritual thing. You're trying to fill a hole that's God-sized with human shit. And even if you don't believe in God, you're trying to fill the hole of something bigger than yourself, which is necessary for human beings, with human shit. And it won't work because there's not enough of anything. And there's not the right person. There's tons of wonderful people, but no one is ever going to fix you. No one is ever going to fulfill your being. Like, that's not who you are. You can't, your identity doesn't exist in another material thing or another human being. It already exists in you. It's up to you to find it and establish it. And it takes what it takes to get there. People do it a lot of different ways. I think I did it late, and I did it, the hard way, which is par for the course. But I did it the honest way, and now there's not a doubt in my mind of, who I am and what I'll accept and what I won't on some levels. And I'm grateful for that. Like it might come off the wrong way to some people. It might be too extreme for some people, but not every people in this world is going to be my people. And I accept that. I know that. It's okay. I'm not going to be sad about that today like I would have been 20 years ago or whatever. Like, being a people pleaser was my first temptation breach. That was the first thing that little defect led me to behave ways that I thought he, she, they, them would like. And it just fucked me up, man. I mean, just made a bunch of bad decisions and did a lot of stupid shit. And for a lot of people, some of them were right and some of them were wrong. And along the way, I picked up a chemical habit, and the ones that were right left because they didn't want to be around me because I became the wrong, and it just, it went downhill real quick. Nowhere in there was I ever waking up and being like, God, what's your will for me today? What am I doing with my life today? What would you have me do today? How can I bring glory to you with this today? Nowhere in there, in any of that, in my first 30 years of life, I guess. Again, 39 tomorrow. So living with myself being God, because that's what I was doing, it didn't go well at all. Like, I got things, I got people, I got noticed, I got some stuff that I wanted, I guess. But I didn't get what I really wanted. And I definitely didn't get anything sustainable. I didn't get anything that I'm going to be able to share with anyone. I didn't get anything that I'm going to be able to enjoy in my older age, or have an older age if I keep doing. You know what I mean? Like, it goes from just being a weekend thing to being a fucking crazy lifestyle real quick. So it's different stories for different people. But anyways, it doesn't have to be your story. Believe it or not, even though the world feels like it's tugging you by the short and curlies a lot of the time, like, you still have the pen to finish your story. Like, you get to choose, base level, you get to choose what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, how you're going to act and how you're not going to act, what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. Okay? So what you're going to choose to participate in or not, you get it. List could go on and on and on. But think that tape through in your head, and like, in what area does it stick out for you? What do you need to do or not do? What's going on in your life right now that's either holding you back or you're holding back from doing because you know that it's going to catapult you and you're afraid you'll fail? Like, it's easy to sit and rest where you're at, but it's not a good thing to do because you're doubting your abilities and you're doubting your creator's handiwork. And you don't want to do that because he doesn't make junk. And if he puts you in a position, he doesn't give you anything that you're not capable of carrying and being a part of. Now, how you're going to choose to do that, that's still in large part going to be up to you. But like we said, you have the pen and you have the way out. And I looked up a few verses about temptation to kind of go along with what we're talking about. Being mindful and the Bible are two of the most basic things I can tell you that changed for me, that helped my life improve quickly. Being mindful, being in the moment, being where your feet are, to keep it simply. So right now I'm petting my dog and I'm making a YouTube video, and that's it. It doesn't matter what else is going on in the world, because this is what I'm doing right now. When I get to something else, I'll do something else. Normally, I'm making this YouTube video and I'm thinking about what I'm gonna cook next Thursday night for dinner. I know you had this experience where you've driven somewhere and you get out of the car and you're like, how the fuck did I get here? I don't remember driving. Obviously I did, but I don't remember it. I'm not drunk. We live our lives like something like 40% of our lives like that, okay? Or you can, right? Which means you cannot too. So it's, for me, way more fun and way more enjoyable to be in control of the moment, actually be engaged and kind of like make the decision or not make the decision. Excuse me, I don't want to play right now. Thank you though. Dog, this is supposed to be G-rated. Anyway, yeah, making the decision of being present in the moment and not just being pissed off and hitting my dog. I don't screen these videos, I shoot them from the hip. So anyways, that's why. But anyway, the verses that I looked up that I think go along with mindfulness and having a higher power. First one was, no temptation has overtaken you that is new. God won't tempt you beyond your ability, and he'll also provide an escape. I had to think about that for a second. First of all, no temptation that I've ever dealt with is new. So find the similarities, not the differences. And God won't tempt me beyond my ability, but he will also provide an escape. It doesn't say he'll provide an escape so you can get away from the temptation. God and wisdom from God are the escape from the temptation. So he's giving you a twofold attack on a one-fold attack. Does that make sense? Two different ways to defeat a one-dimensional enemy. I thought that was pretty cool. It took me a minute to reread that verse because it was saying he will also give you, not he gives you, or, you know, with his word he gives you. It's like God will never give you anything that you can't handle, first of all, with his, you know, help. But he'll also give you a way out. And that way out is through him and his word. It's basically our shield. Every problem in your life you can find in the Bible. They call it the living word because every time you read it, if you read it more than once, it'll mean something different to you. And if you highlight stuff, you'll see that, right? Because you'll go through the next time, you're like, why did I highlight that? And something totally different will stick out to you. And then the third time, something different still, so on and so forth, because it's something different will be happening in your life, right? So anyway, the second verse is from Matthew chapter 26, verse 41. It says, watch and pray so you don't fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So to break that down a little bit, it says, watch and pray so you don't fall into temptation. So basically stay vigilant, focus, because temptation is coming, the enemy is coming. Just stay ready though, because you have the tools necessary. It's no reason to freak out, just be ready to do your best. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So how many of you have ever like really been amped to do something or think you could do something, but you knew like your body's not gonna do this, like play in the NFL or like do a 62-foot backflip on a mountain bike or some shit like that? Like, yeah, I wanna do that, but I can't do that. And that's okay, because God tells us that all we honestly have to do is try and seek him and work to the best of our abilities, and that's always gonna be good enough for him. So we are the way we are for a reason, and just because we're not what we think is perfect doesn't mean that we're not exactly the way we're supposed to be. Maybe even for somebody else, not just yourself. Think of that. Last one. So this one I basically paraphrased. I'll actually read it for you, but it's from James chapter 1, verse 13. So let me see if I can find that real quick. Basically, it says that God will never use anything but goodness. He'll never use anything against you. He'll never try to tempt you. He'll never even participate in